All right. The Jacksonville Jaguars 2023 season is over. A huge disappointment. At one point, they were the first seed in the AFC, and they just completely missed the playoffs. The offense lacked identity, and the franchise as a whole lacked identity. And it's because of Doug Pederson and Trent. And I'm going to tell you why. The Jaguars had a lot of injuries. Zay Jones was out for majority of the season. Cam Robinson was suspended, then he got injured. Agnew, he was getting banged up a lot. Christian Kirk getting hurt towards the end of the season, crucial portion of the season. And then obviously Trevor Lawrence getting a leg injury, concussion, shoulder injury, and then the offensive line as well. So Jaguars didn't have it easy, but it's the NFL. Every team has injuries, and it just sucks that they got injured towards the end of the season with their, big-time players, Christian Kirk, Trevor Lawrence. But every team goes through it, and it's always the same motto, next man up. So the reason why it's on Doug Pederson is because he gave Press Talyor full control of the offense. And Press Talyor, he's a good guy. He understands football and all that stuff. But you can't do that, You can't have Doug Pederson give away his play calling. And the reason why you can't do that is because that's a rebuilding move. If the Jacksonville Jaguars were a rebuilding team, okay, go give your guy, a shot to call the plays. But since we're a contending team trying to win the Super Bowl, trying to take the division, you can't do that. A successful team always relies on the head coach and the quarterback having one mind. That is a franchise building block. That's just what you have to do. If you want to be a successful franchise, a head coach and a quarterback have to have the same mind. And it goes back all the way back to Bart Starr and Vince Lombardi. You got your franchise quarterback and your legendary coach. These guys won the first 2 Super Bowls ever. And then you got Bill Walsh, my favorite coach, and Joe Montana, who was goated until Tom Brady showed up. But these guys understand. The time, this is one of the most iconic photos ever. Breaking down a play on the grass and just having that chemistry together. And then Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, being one of the most dominant football teams in the league right now. Obviously, they're struggling this year. You just have to have that chemistry between those two people right there. And we have that. We have that in Jacksonville. We have our quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. And we have the head coach, Doug Pederson. Just Doug Pederson decided to give the play calling to someone else. And we have a middleman now. It's okay for Trevor Lawrence to go talk to other people because you do want other people's input. But you have to have that communication that he had in that second year with Doug Pederson. And we just didn't have that this year. We didn't. It kind of felt like another Urban Meyer year with Doug Pederson at the helm. He literally gave away the play calling, and he just sat there and, made the forced down decisions. Did we go for it? And he didn't make the right ones this year. Where he should have been with Trevor Lawrence talking about what he did wrong, what he could do better, and what he did good on that play, But we didn't see that. Trevor Lawrence, when he made a mistake, he just ran to the bench and looked at the iPad where he could have went to his guy, Doug Pederson. So that's why it's on Doug. Not nothing crazy, but he needs to have that play calling back. And during the press conference earlier this day, or yesterday, depending when this video is released, he's not looking forward to taking over that play calling. So if he doesn't, the team's going to stay the same. There's going to be no improvement. But at the end of the day, it comes down to Trent Baalke. He's the GM. He makes the play call. Not the play calls, my bad. He makes the decision who's on the roster, who he drafts, who he gets a free agency, who he trades for. It's a lot on one man's plate. I understand that. But he's done a horrible job. Let's look at his resume for the past 3 years drafting. Because drafting is is everything, especially if you're a small market team. Drafting is everything. In the first draft, I call this the Urban Meyer draft, and the reason why is because majority of these players Urban Meyer drafted, Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, Trent could put his foot down. If Urban Meyer didn't know who the fuck Trevor Lawrence was, he's like, we're drafting Trevor Lawrence. But Urban Meyer drafted Travis Etienne. He drafted Tyson Campbell. Trent Baalke drafted Walker Little, Cisco, and then Urban Meyer drafted Tufele. Trent Baalke drafted Jordan Smith, and then Urban Meyer drafted Luke Farrell and Jalen Camp. Jalen Camp I actually like. That speed was really good. I thought he was a pretty solid player for that late pick, but the Jaguars obviously moved on from him pretty quickly. But yeah, those are Urban Meyer's people right there. Those two picks, Tyson Campbell, Travis Etienne. Then we go to the second draft, the Trayvon Walker draft class, first overall pick. We'll talk about that more later. But Devin Lloyd, we traded back in to the first round to select him. Luke Fortner, Chad Muma, Snoop Carter Jr., and Brown. Nothing too crazy here if you are looking at it right now. And go back and look at it. We could have had Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Allen on the same field. And I really wanted Aiden Hutchinson. I was okay if they drafted Thibodeau, but I really wanted Aiden Hutchinson. Trayvon Walker was the guy I did not want on the team. I did not want. I didn't at all. And the reason why I wanted Aiden Hutchinson, y'all probably being like, oh, because he's really good right now. It's a no-brainer. It's like, no, that's not why I wanted Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, he's a very talented player, but I wanted him because his heart and his leadership ability, we needed that on that defense. And you're like, oh, we have a Aluakon. Aluakon, to me, he's more of an IQ guy. He's the brains of the defense. Where Hutchinson, he's smart as well, but he's a hardworking guy, and he's a leader on that defense. I think it would have been phenomenal to have Josh Allen, Aiden Hutchinson on that team, and I think that's what the Jacksonville Jaguars lacked, is this leadership and motivation on the team in the whole, offensively, defensively, and special teams. They just lacked motivation. I think Aiden Hutchinson would have made a huge difference. And my only concern for drafting Aiden Hutchinson is like, how are we gonna be able to pay Josh Allen and Aiden Hutchinson? You know, that's gonna be tough to do. And then you got Trevor Lawrence. So the contract wise, that would be tough. But that's what you want as a team, to be able to have these issues. Can we pay this guy? Because that means you're doing successful in the draft. And then Chad Muma, who was a third-round pick, I believe. Yeah, he was a third-round pick if we trade back into the first round for Lloyd. We could have had Dameon Pierce. We could have had Lucas from Oklahoma, a right tackle. We could have had a number of guys. But for me, Dameon Pierce would have been the guy I would have selected, because we need that power football back, and Dameon Pierce is that guy. Just rotate them out, and we would solve the issue of our third and threes. Like, literally, the Jaguars have struggled forever in that position, you know, in those scenarios. There's third and shorts, and Dameon Pierce would have helped there. And obviously, Lucas, he would have made it easier for Trevor Lawrence and the run game. But we went with Chad Muma at the end of the day. So, yeah. So now we go to our most recent draft class. I had them ranked last in the NFL, and they proved me right. They just did. Antoine Harris, he's a really good player. I like him, but we kind of had our hand was forced to pick him, you know, because of Cam Robinson's suspension. We would be missing a tackle, so we had to draft Harris, and then we got Strange. Hated the pick, still hate it to this day. Tank Bisbee, hated the pick as well. Then I watched this tape, I was like, okay, we probably got something here, but would I have picked him there? No, but it is what it is. Again, I would have had Dameon Pierce, so we would have needed running back right there. And then Antonio Johnson, Parker Washington, those guys are, to me, are the guys out of this draft. Antonio Johnson, they finally started playing him later in the season. They realized that, oh my God, he's actually pretty good. And then Parker Washington, he has some flashes. A young receiver. I didn't expect him to play this year, but due to injuries, he did. So he's a good player. He's a good player. Parker Washington is a good player. But the rest of the draft, big question marks everywhere. And then you combine all three of those draft classes into one. How many players are impact players to our team right now? Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Tyson Campbell. Again, you could probably eliminate those because Urban Meyer selected those players. And then all you're left with is Andre Cisco, Devin Lloyd, Antonio Johnson, Harris, and Parker Washington. And obviously you could, I guess, put Walker in there. But again, Walker right now is a first overall pick. It's not looking too hot. So yeah, he literally has 5 players out of 3 years of drafting who are impact players to the team. That just can't happen. It can't. Especially if you're a small market team where free agents are not going to be looking to go to your team. You can't have that happen at all. At any team, if you're a big market team, you can't do that. Even though free agents will go to your team, you can't draft only 5 good players in the past 3 years. You won't be a successful football team. But being a small market team, that makes it more, what's the word I'm looking for? It makes it like a bigger deal, than it would for a big market team. But I will give credit where it's due. His free agent signings are really good. Some of them are kind of falling off a cliff, but that's time. Everybody has their time, and time eats everybody. Time is king. Christian Kirk, phenomenal pick. He resetted the market for the receivers. So it's a phenomenal pickup from free agency. Aluakong, he was one of my guys. I was so happy when they got him in free agency. They gave him the money that he was due. And then they got his boy Foskey. And then Williams for the Rams. I love that pickup as well. Zay Jones, Rashad Jenkins, Harris, Brandon Sheriff, we got to talk about a little bit more. And then Evan Ingram, we're going to talk about a little bit more as well. But yeah, he did good in free agency, but you can't build a winning Super Bowl team out of free agency. You got to draft well and then add those little pieces from free agency. And he has not drafted good in the past 3 years, and I don't think it's going to change. And this upcoming draft class that we're going to select has to be great. It has to be phenomenal. It has to be perfect. Because if it's not, and they don't get Josh Allen back, Josh Allen has to be priority number 1. But then in that draft class that's coming up, we have to hit on every single pick. Because if we don't, it's not going to look so good for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the far future. Or near future, I guess you could say. Whatever one. And then we got these guys who are kind of just like role players, but, they're picked pretty darn high, except for Buster Brown, Miller Jr. Those guys are really solid players, but they're not going to be impactful players in the game, They're solid players, but they're not game-changing. So Walker Little, he was drafted in the 2nd round, I believe, right? Yeah, he was drafted in the 2nd round. He was drafted in the 2nd round. I think he's a good tackle. He's a good player, but he's just been moved around so many times that he's not able to lock on in one position. So I believe they should trade him, give him a shot somewhere else, get some sort of value for him, because I believe he's a good tackle. It's just the situation that we put him in is not great. And then Tank Bisbee, don't like to pick. Strange, don't like to pick. Blocking tight end, who got selected in the 2nd round. Probably could have got selected in the 4th round. So, all right, Luke Fortner. He was a 3rd round pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars in that Trayvon Walker draft. When they first drafted him, I was okay with it. We needed a center. Linder just retired. Might be a Hall of Fame, or he might just be outside the Hall of Fame. Really great center. Unfortunate that he retired when Jacksonville actually started to get good, but it is what it is. Luke Fortner, he might be on his way out. Alright, so Sheriff and Evan Ingram. Sheriff paid him a lot of money to be on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this upcoming year he's gonna get paid as well, unless the Jacksonville Jaguars decide to cut him. I believe they will. The first season he played on the first season he played on the Jaguars did great. You know, a lot of people were saying that he would get hurt during the season. He proved them wrong. He played through injuries and he played phenomenal in that first year. In this past season, it kind of looked like age and those injuries are kind of piling up on him. So I do believe the Jaguars will cut him, unfortunately, but that's the way business is. All right, Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram led the team in reception. He led the team in receiving yards. He's a phenomenal receiving tight end, great after the catch. But with all that being said, I still wouldn't have re-signed him to a multi-year deal. And it's because of his IQ. He doesn't understand zone coverages. He doesn't find those openings in the zones. He often runs his route into them, covering himself. And a good example of that is in the Ravens game, where he's doing a little hitch route. He clearly sees the DN dropping back into that area where he's supposed to run the route. So he could easily do a stick route and boom, easy completion for Trevor Lawrence, especially if Trevor Lawrence is getting pressure that the line doesn't pick up. Boom, easy completion, and he could, get yardage after the catch because that's what he's good at. That's what he is. He's great after the catch. But instead, he runs his route into the zone, covering him, and Trev throws it to where he should have been. Because he clearly sees the man dropping back to where he's running his route. And then again, the last play of the season is man coverage. Trev's under pressure. He's rolling out. I think he was rolling out. And he throws it over Evan Ingram. Most people will say, oh man, that's a terrible throw. It's an overthrow. No, it's not. He's trying to help Evan Ingram to evade the man coverage. Because all Evan Ingram is doing is just running in a straight line. Where if Trevor Lawrence throws it to Evan Ingram, it's either a deflection or it's an interception. So him throwing it over the defender and over Evan Ingram, all Evan Ingram needs to do is just go up the field, easy completion, he gets the first down, and he gets out of bounds. But Evan Ingram just runs in a straight line, covering himself, making it difficult for Trevor Lawrence. And yeah, that's why I don't like Evan Ingram, because if he doesn't have the IQ. But he has all the potentials to be a stud. And I guess that's been his name forever now. But if you watch Travis Kelce, what makes him so great is that he understands the zone. He finds the opening for the zone. He understands where his quarterback needs him, and he gets there. And he just, Patrick Mahomes gives it to him, and then Travis Kelce does everything himself. He makes greatness. He does all those crazy stuff. He just runs after the catch. And Evan Ingram could do the same exact thing, but he just doesn't understand zone coverages. He doesn't know how to break that stuff down. But he could develop that. But it's just, he's so late in his career that can he really develop that? We don't know. Hopefully he could, because Trevor Lawrence obviously wants him to be that guy that he's in sync with, but he's just not, because Evan Ingram doesn't read coverages. He doesn't read coverages. He just doesn't. He just runs his route. And that's why I wanted Michael Mayer, because Michael Mayer, I truly believe Michael Mayer and Trevor Lawrence would have been a crazy duo together. Just an insane one. Obviously, Michael Mayer isn't going to be this crazy athletic guy after the catch, but he's going to be the guy that gets open, catches the football, makes the contested catches, and then he gets, he fights for yardage, where Evan Ingram just runs for extra, more. And Michael Mayer could run block and pass block. But, Evan Ingram, he just struggles with just breaking down coverages. That's all it is. He could be great, but it's just that one thing, him breaking down coverages, slows him down, And then Calvin Ridley, Trent Baalke traded for Calvin Ridley. Honestly, I was a fan of this. I believe the Jaguars do need that number one receiver. But I don't know, Calvin Ridley kind of could be a victim of the play calling or just the injuries around him. Like, there's so many things that went wrong for them offensively. The one that he's going to be remembered for is that miss from Trevor Lawrence on that deep post route to Calvin Ridley, wide open. It would have been a walk-in touchdown if he would have caught it. But, yeah, he's not going to return to the team after this season. I believe he'd go somewhere else. And then Trayvon Walker, I mean, I don't want to be an asshole, but he's a bust at this point. First overall pick, doesn't get that consistent pressure on the quarterback. Run stuffing, that's his name, you know, that's what he could do. But again, versatility, he needs to be playing inside. I feel like he's really great inside, but the defensive coordinator, he got fired. So I don't want to say I'm happy that he got fired, but I think that's the right move for the Jaguars to move on from Mike Caldwell. And hopefully to get a defensive coordinator who could use Trayvon Walker in the inside and outside, just move him around the field, you know. I don't want to see him drop it back at middle linebacker like how the Eagles are doing with Noah Smith, but I want to see Trayvon Walker inside, getting the inside pressure. I want to see him moved around a little bit more. Hopefully that can have more protection for him, help him out as a player. But in terms of first overall pick, he is a bust. There are other players out there that are way better than Trayvon Walker at this point in his career. So yeah, in conclusion, it's on Doug Pederson because he gave the OC position to Press Talyor, which is a rebuilding move. You can't do that. You cannot give someone else the offensive coordinator role when you're successful. And yeah, you're literally supposed to be one mind with your franchise quarterback, having that connection, having that chemistry together, and they just threw that away this season. And then Trent Baalke, Jaguars right now. 5 players that he drafted are impact players to the Jaguars. That's a big no-no. And obviously he did great in free agency. His trades has not been active in the trade market. He got Ezra Cleveland recently. It was a solid trade, but obviously we would have liked a pass rusher. A lot of people wanted, what's his name? They wanted Hunter. Obviously Hunter has value to the Vikings, so you weren't going to get him, so go get somewhere else. Me personally, I would have got Chase Young. I know Chase Young's not who he was when he was drafted, but he is a guy that's going to apply pressure to that quarterback, and you do have leverage for him. You do have leverage against him when it comes to free agency because he's not going to have that production. He has an injury history, and if you are a successful team, he probably will re-sign to the Jacksonville Jaguars, no problem. But instead, we're here. Disappointing ending. We're in the worst outcome that Jags fans could ask for. Josh Allen, we have no leverage for him at all. You have to give him the money that he wants, because if you don't, he's going to walk away. If you franchise tag him, he's going to sit and he's going to walk away, or you're going to have to trade him. It's basically the Jalen Ramsey scenario or the Nagano scenario. You literally repeat history, so you have to sign him to whatever he wants.